your social media is also like your business card, right? So if you're out there, you're partying, you're posting all that stuff, people are gonna remember you as that, right? If you're out there and you're just only doing this, people will remember you as that. But it's your message that comes with it, and to make sure that we're not cyberbullying, because I've had to address a couple people with that as well, and it's tough because kids they're more aware of things that we were never. Like the things that I hear, I'm like, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts.
Hello, welcome to a very special edition of Shoot the Defense. I'm your host, Stel, and I'm joined by, blimey, this lady. Well, she's done a lot. She calls herself a jack of all trades, but I think that's a bit of an understatement, really. She's like a Swiss Army knife. Former pro footballer, videographer, photographer, social media guru. Rachel Breton, welcome to the show. What is it that you don't do?
You know what? I don't know. At this rate, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't have anything. I like to say master of all trades. That's my new thing. I just say master of all trades.
Excellent. No, I like that one better than jack of all trades. Yeah, what jack of all trades make you sound a bit cockney like me? Be selling jelly deals down at the pub pretty soon. Yeah?
No way. I just think it's with the confidence, and we're doing a lot of things, so might as well just do it 100% and be a master.
Excellent. Well, tell me something. You recently retired from football. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you've just hit 30. So
yes.
Blimey, there are many footballers out there that don't really retire until they're mid 30s, I'd say. So what is it? I'm sure you've been asked this question on numerous occasions, but why did you retire so early in your career, I guess?
I know. It's so sad, honestly, because I could still play. I could still do all the things. But over here in America, it's not as lucrative as we want it to be, especially in the women's game. When I've said this a couple times, but when I started, it was $6,000 for the year.
Wow.
And then it was 7, then it was 10, then it was 15, and now I think it's 20. But you can only imagine, as you said, master of all trades, there are a lot of things that I wanted to do. And it was never, go play for my national team. It was just be the best that I can, be a pro, and enjoy it. And I know that there was interview with Messi, and they asked him, they said, "What, how do you feel being the best player in the world?" And he laughed, and he's like, "I'm flattered, but I just do it because I'm having fun. When it's not fun, that's when I'll retire." And for me, it started to be too much of a job, not lucrative. And at that time, we weren't really getting a lot of exposure. So it was kind of at a point where I said to myself, what are you doing? Like, you reach your ceiling, and there's more to me than soccer Rachel, which a lot of people have just known me for that. When they find out that I can do other things, it's like, your eyes are widening, because you're like, oh, you can speak, like, So it was time for me. And honestly, I am starting to feel it in my body, but I know I could still push, but it's not the same, it's not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you given any opportunities to move abroad? Because I know you spent some time in Norway back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a good 6 years ago. But prior to calling it a day or hanging up your boots, did you get any offers from Europe? Because it's now a growing industry, the women's soccer league, or the women's soccer division, shall I say?
Yes, I have. And that is a decision that I still go back and forth. If anyone's listening, I would still go. I would still join. I would love to play in Spain as well. I think if I were to go back, it would be like Spain or France or England. That would be awesome. But it's a little tough here, because I've set so many grounds. I have a lot of roots and a lot of things. So for me, it would have to make sense for it to, or I would have to decide, listen, I just want to have one more round, like how everyone does, when Jordan came back, even though I wasn't as good as Jordan, but
came back with a 45. Yeah,
I mean, maybe I'll come back with a 45. I would love to, but it would just have to make sense, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, let's go all the way back to, well, I'll say 4th of August, 1990. You were born. I was 10 at the time. So I remember Italian 90. 4 years later, you're talking about USA 94. You were 4 years old. Little
Yeah.
birdie told me you were kicking a football about with your dad in the back garden. Your dad was a football coach and an attorney. So I
Yes.
take it you wanted to become a footballer from the day your father gave you a football. Is that right in saying?
Yes. 100%. You did your homework, man. Yeah, that's
Got to be
100%.
done, standard.
Yeah, my dad used to play. He played pro. He got drafted by the Houston Dynamos. He played at
Oh,
Rutgers.
really?
Sorry. Yep. He played at Syracuse, not Rutgers. I played at Rutgers. He
Right.
played at Syracuse. And at that time, when I was 4, he was playing. He was doing semi-pro, and they were called the Hurricanes. And I would go to his games, and he was just like so good. Like he was so creative and
What position
fast,
did
and
he
like
play?
he was a forward. He was a forward
He was a
and a
forward
10.
because you
Mhm.
started in goal at first, didn't you? And then you got fed up with
I
it.
did.
So,
So weird. Huge change. But that's what happened too. Like I was playing rec, and then I think I was 7 years old, and then this guy came up to my dad and we said, we'd love to have her, join our program. And I just joined, and I wasn't starting, at 7. And our goalkeeper at the time got hurt. And he looked at the bench and he said, does anyone know how to play goalie? And me being myself, and this makes total sense to who I am today, I said, yeah, I do. And like, I've always been, even as a kid, like, say you can and then learn how to do it and learn how to do it
learn on
well.
the job, yeah.
So, yeah. So I jumped right in, and sure enough, it went to a PK. And I said, here we go. And I dove and I saved it. And they were like, oh, we got ourselves a goalie. And I said, sure, like whatever. And at that time, that's when Brianna Scurry was the U.S. national team goalkeeper, and they were calling me Brianna or Scurry, and I was like, oh, this is cool, this is cool. But then, I was getting older. I think I was 11, and I said, I just have too much energy. Obviously, I'm like high energy. I wanted to just do those things. I was so fascinated by the moves and the creativity, and the runs off the ball, the tiki taka, the like, just it was a huge it was a huge world. Like it was amazing. So I said, you know what, I gotta make a transition. I left that club. I went to a new club, and I had carte blanche to just do, just to be creative. And I just was addicted to just anything with soccer. Just learning different things, thinking unconventionally. I hate little pattern play. I love a good just wow, what a ball, like what a thought, what a vision. And that kind of I was just hungry for that. My dad helped me through that the whole way, and I'm always indebted to him for that. He was my best coach.
What'd you get from your mum's side then? You got the sporty side from your dad.
I get the brains.
You say that because you know he's not going to watch, right?
I say it because I told him that.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
No, he's more the philosophical kind of guy, and that's how I am too. My mom is like very analytical, very just like got perfect scores on her SATs, and just a badass. So she's great like that. So I really am a middle child. I'm in the middle between them. I'm sure they're proud of me at sometimes, and then I see that I'm their worst parts of themselves at times too.
See, I say exactly the same thing about my parents because I'm an only child as well. And
Yes.
yeah, see, we got to stand up for ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So we do see ourselves in our parents. I think we see that more than people with siblings. I don't know. Maybe that's just my observation anyway.
No.
But yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. When I start, I'm doing things lately, and I'm like, oh my god, this is my mother. This is my mother.
Oh,
Or
yes.
like with my dad, and I'm like just weird things that set him off sometimes set me off, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's just I think you're 100% right. Like you're just too aware.
Well, see, this is it. As I've got older, I always said to myself, what would my dad not do in a situation? And then I just do the opposite. So there you go. There you go. So
I love that.
well, look, tell me something. When you were growing up, did you have any football I don't know, icons or players that you looked up to, not only in the men's division but also in female game?
I did. Well, at that time, I mean, there was Mia Hamm, Michelle Akers on the
Mm.
national team. There wasn't, what's sad is that there wasn't so much broadcasting of when they had the WPS. So I remember I went to a New York Power game. I think there was like Sarah Whalen, maybe she was good. But it was tough. But for the men's game, I play like a dude. Like I love that stuff. So I used to watch videos of Maradona. I used to watch, Pelé, my dad, even players that I would see like local. There was Mike Pecky. He was on Metro Stars.
Mm-hmm.
I love Davy Beckham. He's still got it. Everyone talks about. I know.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I just Ronaldinho was my main
Yes.
guy. He was my main guy. Like when the Jogo Benito commercials came out, I was like, what is that? How is he doing that?
Yeah.
How is he doing that? And it was just so like, like it was so good. When Ronaldo started at Man U, that's when he started to come out of his shell a little bit. I was intrigued by that. Yeah, that was kind of it. But I think my number one was Ronaldinho, and now it's Messi. Again, that's the kind of person that I like. I just like getting at a tight space, and I love flair. I really do.
Yep.
And I would get in trouble because I know in America it's like just keep it simple, just keep it simple. I'm like, but that's not soccer to me. I think it's like you're a painter, right? You have a whole canvas. You want to paint it, and it's your canvas. So those are my people.
I think when you look at MLS at this moment in time, obviously it hasn't reached the level as Don Garber would obviously want it to be. That being said, you're seeing a lot more flair players, especially from South America, moving to sides like Atlanta United, who you've seen with Almiron in the past, who's now at Newcastle United. But you're seeing lots and lots of flair players coming from Europe. I think Gonzalo Higuain is out there at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think the league is developing, but what you will notice, as a Brit looking at outside in, so to speak, we've noticed that a lot of Americans want the entertainment side. They don't want pragmatic managers who can sit with, two banks of four and to hit teams on the counter attack. They want to see free flowing football, which is understandable because you guys are used to seeing NBA where it's constantly back and forth. Even NFL to some extent, it is pretty fast paced. So when you got a team that slows the game down and tries to dictate the tempo, there people tend to switch off. So I can see why the flair players are so well renowned. But then when you look in the past, say players like Alexi Lalas, who's doing pretty well as a pundit, he was never that kind of player. He was more like a British central defender.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's awesome input because I feel that. I think you're 100% right in terms of entertainment. Like even people that when they watch games here, if it's a 1-0 game, it's not as exciting. It's not as sexy. But I don't agree with that. Like I would rather watch a game 0-0, but the soccer was just phenomenal. Like I want to see saves. I want to see attempts. Obviously goals are great, but it seems like, like if it's a 4-3 game or a 6-4 game, it's great. And then I'm like, to me, that's just bad defense. Like,
that's the pragmatic side of you, the Jose Mourinho side of you coming out now.
I'm like, why is that great? Unless it's like, unless you're just destroying teams, that's different. And it's just good soccer and just mistakes. That's the game, right? When you capitalize on mistakes. But it seems a lot of times, especially in the MLS game, it is getting better. But it is very like counterattack. The amount of gaps that there are in the field in the walking, I'm like, what are we doing? And delay and like drama. I'm like, oh, we could do better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, MLS has made me quite a bit of money from a betting perspective because I always put 2.5 goals per game. And it's usually 3 or 4. So
well, let me know what you do in the future so I can bet with you.
100%. You're on. Well, look, you've played for Villanova, Rutgers. You've studied a hell of a lot. You got your psychology major, your English major. I think you did biology, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Biochem to start. Biochem to start. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're more into the psychological element of life itself. And,
yes, absolutely.
you've done extremely well, but being a life guru, as they call it? What's the correct term anyway?
So I don't have my PhD, so I can't say psychologist. So they say guru or mentor. I think guru sounds a little bougie because it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
but they say that. I say I'm a mentor. Or I have a background in psychology, which is true. I've done ancillary certifications in it. I did major in it. But I do find that so fascinating because we like the brain is so powerful, the mind is so powerful, and especially in as an athlete, like there's so many times where we get so into it and then we fail, or we're not like prepared and then we collapse. Like there's the mental game and the mental strength is what makes a lot of these players and will through, because if your fitness goes, then your technical goes, and then your confidence goes. So as a now former pro, I try to enable that and instill that in my training when I'm coaching kids and doing private sessions, because I think right now in America we're just like, and maybe society is just like pussification of how everything's going. Everyone is just so soft, or
Yeah.
like you can't say this, or this is PC. But like I like your word pragmatic. Why can't we just be pragmatic, and why can't we be straightforward? And why can't we say, listen, I screwed up here, and I can make it better. Like you can say the same thing and change your tone or the way you say it, but to exempt yourself from all from accountability and drive and limiting yourself, you're doing yourself and other people a disservice because they're not going to get the full you. So I think that helping people understand their mindset can reframe everything, whether it's on the field or off the field. It's just you're like you're saying, you've been up all day. Like it's a mindset. You're hungry for this. You're creating a legacy in what you're doing, and that's all that anyone could do. It's just people forget that they can do it.
Oh, absolutely. And you doing what you're doing with the kids, they've got their mentor there. I'm sure you remember your favorite school teacher when you were younger. You're going to remember
Oh
the ones
yeah,
that gave you shit, but you're also going to remember the ones that stood out most from a positive perspective. And I guess what you're doing is absolutely fantastic because, listen, as well as I do, football is a very, very difficult sport. If you want to be successful, you got to put in the work. And on top of that, you got to have a little bit of luck as well to get through certain stages. So when
yeah.
you've got kids there asking you questions and you coaching them, and you can talk to them about your experiences, not just within the US, but also in Norway and any other places that you've been, that's someone that they can look up to. So they're very fortunate to have you there. So I guess you're feeling quite fulfilled as well.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is, in one of my favorite children's books is The Giving Tree, and that's me. Like I like to be a giver. I like to help people because I think at the end of the day we're all just trying to walk each other home. We learn, we're bouncing ideas off right now. I'm sure someone's listening and they can gain something from what either of us are saying. So I think as a person, that is a fulfilling moment where I can just help. I can provide, because there are a lot of parents that are lost in the process, even trying to figure out how to be in that path. There's a lot of players that are lost in the process, and I always say, like, there's no specific way. Here's a way that I have done, and if there was some abnormalcies to it, but I still end up at that spot, and that was the goal. I still ended up. Could I have done it differently? Sure. Would I have done it differently? Sometimes, but at the end of the day, I have no regrets with certain things because I think anything is for your good. I think you can make anything into an experience and deem it as positive because it molds you. I love adversity because, if life is just like this, yeah, where is your growth? Where is your
Yeah.
strength? Where is your perseverance? So when you help people in these moments, it's so fulfilling, even having an engaging conversation, and that person just feels that they can do it one more day. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And talk to me about these kids then, because you've obviously got the coaching background, you've got the psychology background, but you know a hell of a lot about social media. Now, we live in an era where everyone seems to communicate through social media. I mean, you and I communicate through email. So that's some kind
Yeah,
of form of social media, LinkedIn
right.
originally. But then
Yeah,
you've got the dangers of social media, like your Instagrams, and then you've got Twitters, and then you've got the bullying, then you've got potential predators, so to speak. So, I
yeah.
mean, I don't know which age group you coach, But do you speak to them about the dangers of that social media can bring to them, especially from a sporting perspective?
Absolutely. I'll send you the link after this, but I wrote an article for Soccer Girl Problems about this. One, it was mindset, but also like there's so much comparison and there's not enough direction. And I get caught in it too, you know, or I have. I understand, and I'm older. I understand that who's posting the worst day on social media? Not many. You know, who's posting, you know, their trials, maybe to show how successful they've been, but it's always in your success. It's always like living this like very luxurious life.
Braggadocious,
Yeah,
braggadocious, yeah,
exactly.
running it down people's
Braggadocious.
throats. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So you have players that, you know, from their standpoint, they're like, oh, there's this girl playing for this academy and they're doing this, or they did 1,000 touches, or they did this, or we got to go here. And my thing is, but what's their DNA? It's not yours. It's their DNA. This is your DNA. What do you want? You know, I want to when I post things on social media, I know how to gain that stuff and get the coverage and stuff, but I want it authentic, and I think that's kind of why I can have a fan group, right, or a following, because it is authentic. It's you know, I'll have it like a deep quote or a positive quote or motivational, but if you look at the theme of my social media, it's all the same thing. It's not going to be like it's all soccer or all this. Like I'm not all that, you know, and it's never going to like be like bringing you down. If anything, it's supposed to bring you up. That's my message. So I want the girls when they go through this, and the guys too, like, listen, when they do the TikTok and doing all this, I say it's like rapid Tourette's, just going like this in the middle, you know. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? But I make them aware that it's important to love each other. It's important to be kind. It's important to leave a legacy, and it's in everything that you do, right? Like your social media is also like your business card, right? So if you're out there, you're partying, you're posting all that stuff, people are gonna remember you as that, right? If you're out there and you're just only doing this, people are gonna remember you as that. But it's your message that comes with it, and to make sure that, you know, we're not cyberbullying, because I've had to address a couple people with that as well. And it's tough because kids they're more aware of things that we were never. Like the things that I hear, I'm like, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. Yeah. So I think social media is great because you can encourage people and people can bounce off ideas. And again, look, we connected with social media, right? But I also find it tough because of those reasons, you know, because people are get wrapped into it. You know, I actually just talked to an old teammate. She said, I just deleted social media. She's like, I can't do it because she's getting wrapped into it and she's feeling like she's not doing enough. And I said, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. You know, like I'm okay with whatever, and I just bounce out and I could care less.
Well, this is it. I think it depends on the individual and how they cope with it. I was on Twitter from 2012, 2011. And last summer, I disconnected because there was so much toxicity on that platform. And it doesn't matter who you follow. You could always follow one person who you feel, you know, is, you know, God-fearing and is so, you know, clean and clean cut. But then they retweet something that is just so negative. And you're like, do you know what I mean? I don't want anything to do with it. But, you know, Facebook, I use it just to keep in touch with relatives who I don't see from time to time. I don't put up photographs of what I had for breakfast like other people do, but you know, but with
isn't it funny?
Is it? But going back to, you know, I'm trying to segue this into your motivational side of things, because I follow a football club in Cyprus. I don't know if you've heard of Cyprus. It's a tiny little island near Greece and Turkey, and I follow a football club there. And you know, I started doing videos before matches on Instagram, right? And it was just a bit of a laugh. And all of a sudden, the players started following me. You know, people from the club are watching my YouTube videos on the club, and it's kind of spiraled out of control. But me, I do a little bit of trolling as well, the opponents and all that kind of stuff, a bit of banter. But then every now and again, I'll get an alert, and my daughter will be like, "Well, your phone's going off again." I'm like, "Yes, because I did a video this morning." She goes, "Well, what's being said?" She's 7 years old, and I look at it and I'm like, I'm receiving abuse from, you know, rival supporters. They're going to cut my throat. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And then I end up going to Cyprus and no one says a word to me. So my question to you is, as a female who's involved in football, we've seen it time and time again, especially recently in the UK, female pundits, female footballers receiving, vitriol, abuse on social media. Have you encountered anything like that before? And if you have, how have you dealt with it? And what advice would you give to girls?
Yeah, I haven't. It wasn't as intense as that. Like getting my throat cut and stuff. But you're right, because especially on Twitter, it's so crazy how it could be, again, a good tool, because the first thing that anyone does, like when Kobe passed away, I went on Twitter. I didn't go on Google. I went on Twitter, and it was like all this stuff. Then the news started to come out. So it's like the main, like, right away kind of information. But you're right. There are times where, like, people that I follow that are very, like, God fearing, loving, or like happy, whatever. And then it says like so and so like this, and then I read it, and it's like the most bizarre thing. Like all the stuff that was going on with Trump, I was like, this is disgusting. This is just like nuts. It was a cruel place. When the kneeling was going on in the NWSL, because of the Black Lives Matter thing, people were totally attacking players for either standing or kneeling or not, and it got kind of out of the way. One of my best friends, they were calling her a white supremacist, but like it was bizarre. And my thing, and I've had people come to me and say, well, how come you haven't said this about this? And I'm like, I think that's ridiculous, because I think, we have the freedom of speech, and we also have the freedom to just be educated on stuff. For me, I'm not one to start saying things that I don't do my homework in. And I also don't judge other people based off of their decisions, because I don't know what they're going through. There's one girl that was playing that plays in the league, and she didn't, kneel for the national anthem, which I just also think, why are we having the national anthem before, like, just local games? I mean, that's the bigger issue for me. But she didn't kneel, and she was getting a lot of, hate, and one of the guys came up to me or wrote to me and said, what are we going to do about that girl? And I said, but do you know why she stood? And he was like, oh. And it's like, just be human. Like, if you're curious, or you think it's a bad decision, why don't you ask the person? Why don't you educate yourself a little bit more and figure it out?
It's
because
cancel culture, isn't it? Cancel culture. That's the first response. Cancel them.
Counterculture all the time. We're living in a counterculture world. It's like love thy neighbor, but also, F you like blah, blah, blah. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So with that situation, she also donated the most out of all the players. So it's like, it's never good enough for people. And people now, I think that I call it email balls. Like, sometimes I get like emails that, like, they say all this stuff, and I'm like, let's get on the phone, and I call right away. I had a parent that was like attacking me, and like saying a whole bunch of nonsense, and so I called right away, and tone changed.
Yeah,
and I said, listen, because listen, it's really cute that you can go behind a screen name and you can go behind anonymous or whatever, and you're gonna attack my character when you don't even know me. All it says is your character. That's all it says. So my advice to people is to understand that the way that people treat you is a reflection on themselves, not on you. And if it does bother you, I think it's okay to have the conversation, or make things clear and certain. But it's just sticking to your character. It's sticking to your narrative and to your fruits. Like, we're talking. You mentioned God fearing. I am a Christian, and in the Bible it says, to build your foundation on rock, not sand. So if your foundation is on rock, your house is not going to blow away. So finding those roots, right? Finding the fruits of love, kindness, peace, joy, all those things, that's huge. And all these things that people say or do are not going to mean anything. It's just, again, a reflection on them. And they're trying. Like my mom, the smart one, right? She taught me, like, Rachel, this shows nothing of what this is for you, and don't bite. She's like, in psychology, we reward positive behavior and we ignore negative behavior. So if I were to bite, I'm giving them what they want. They want to see a reaction. And I think that's what, at least in here in America, we have a really tough time because of pride. And I think it's like pride doesn't bring you much.
Well, this is it. And, with social media, you tend to find out the people's true colors. I'm good friends with Kelvin. I can't even get my words out. Yeah, Kelvin Jack is the Trinidad and Tobago goalkeeping coach for the national team, the men's national team. And when the whole Black Lives Matter movement was in full throttle, he put out a Facebook post, and he was basically like, you can see who your true friends are, and you can see what people are really like when, something so sensitive is a topical subject, because people will show their true colors, and they'll show what they're really about. They'll make comments, and they might type without thinking, but at the same time, you could tell what they're saying is from the heart. And that's the difference. And while, listen, social media is great, but it's also got its bad points. But again, you tend to find out what a person is really about.
Right. It's like that quote Maya Angelou, like when you meet them the first time, believe them. It's just like that. It is a tough world, but I think just because it's a tough world doesn't mean that we can't try to make it better by how we do it. Right. Like, again, for me, I try to keep it motivational. I try to keep it positive. I try to keep it influential. I try to keep it funny. Like, I am class clown 2008. That's not going away. I'm holding that.
Great stuff.
Most likely to make you smile. I'm here, but that's me. I've gotten, from jobs say, oh, you're too silly or something. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather be too silly than too serious or unkind.
Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Do you know what? I've got two quick questions, and I'm glad you said the word funny. You're a videographer. Okay. So I take it you've seen Coming to America 2. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen 2. I haven't. I heard it's good. Is it good?
Okay, listen, okay. Right. I'm gonna get a lot of abuse for this, right? Now, so with sequels, I don't have a problem with sequels. It's like having kids, right? When you have the first kid, they're the best kid, right?
Yeah.
When
That's
you have
why we're the
best. So you go, right? When you have the second, you're kind of wanting it to aspire to be like the first one, but it's like, oh, okay, we did well. But then when you have a third one, it's like Home Alone 3, right? You kind of regret having it, right?
It's like the Hangover. It's like the Hangover. Yep.
That's it. But with Coming to America 2, I knew there'd be a lot of nostalgia. I knew there'd be a lot of recycled jokes, but I also had the feeling that the storyline would be recycled as well. And it kind of was. The one thing that disappointed me most about the film, to be fair, was how Eddie Murphy, who was Prince Akeem, and he'd been back in Zamunda for over 30 years, he'd got an American accent. He hasn't kept the African accent. I'm thinking, you got to stay within character. But do you know what? I don't say to people, oh, don't watch it because it's a rubbish film. Watch it because it's out of curiosity. You're gonna do it, aren't you? Because the first one was a classic.
Oh yeah, I'm going to 100%. I haven't gotten to it yet, and I wanted to rewatch the first one because it was a classic and I loved it. So when I watch the second one, it's a back-to-back kind of thing. Yeah, that's on my to-do list.
Excellent. Well, look, one more thing before I let you go. What are you doing with yourself now? Obviously, you mentioned that you just finished coaching. You're doing the social media stuff. You're into marketing. As I said at the beginning of the show, is there anything that you can't do or you don't do?
Yeah, I'm keeping up with that. With coaching, I'm hoping to get more of a higher role in a director kind of position, because I think that though my talents are on the field, I think private personal trainings are great, because you're dealing with someone that wants to get better. When you have teams, you might be dealing with people that are just paying for what's in front of here, or you might have parents that are just living vicariously through their kid, and it kind of does a disservice to everything. But I get it. But for me, that the people are going to get the most out of me, and for my fulfilling, is dealing with individuals. So I'm going to push more for those individual trainings, group trainings, mental mindset things. And I know that there's a broken system in youth sports here, and I think that to make it better, you have to just start over. And that means, like, I want to be a culture provider. I want to create cultures. I want to find the loose ends and tie them, and I know that I can do that. So that's my goal in the coaching field for marketing. I'm going to keep doing that. You know, I do it. I do a good job at it. I can do social media. I help build people's brands. I love video content creation. The goal would be is if I can work with like an Adidas or you know, a Nike or Gatorade and fulfill all of it, which is like mental toughness, like a mindset, right? You get a nice message, you get awesome music, you get to inspire people by music, words, all these things, and people could be like, wow, let's share this. And I could use social media for the good. That I would love to do. I'd like to get into the field of that kind of commercial work, because I think like sometimes it's the things that aren't really said but are seen that make such a difference. And I think that's something that we could do as humans, and that's something that I want to get involved in. And then who knows, you know, like I was just doing a sales job with insurance, and I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm never going to limit myself. There's no end until I'm in heaven. So I'm willing to just see where the road takes me, and there's no rush.
Well, Rachel, you are truly inspirational, and I hope a lot of people are watching this, not just females, male as well. You know, you do a lot of things, and you've got so much energy, enthusiasm, you're creative, and we need more people like you in the world. And I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me on the screen. So thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your time. Before I let you go, do you have any websites, Twitter handles, Instagram, all that kind of stuff? I'm following you on Instagram anyway, but I'll just let you advertise that.
Yeah. Rachel Breton across the border. Rachel Breton, RACHIEBRET. And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Just follow me, follow you back.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Well, guys, that was Rachel Breton. Hope you enjoyed this interview. We're on Instagram and Twitter, even though I don't use Twitter that much with the Shoot the Defense account, but use Instagram. So until next time, take care.
Cheers.